CHGO White Sox Postgame Podcast. My name is Herb Lawrence. Usually I'm sitting in the middle seat, but today we only have two seats. You see myself and Jared Wyllys here. Sean is off seeing the boss right now. Jared Wyllys writes for us here at CHGO for both Cubs and Sox. And later in the show, we'll have CHGO's beat reporter, Vinnie Duber, covering the White Sox live from Guaranteed Rate Field. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. Jared Wyllys at J Wyllys, Y's instead of I's. Myself, Ecknerwall23 on the Twitter machines. Before I get started, I'm going to remind you guys that next week we do a takeover at Wrigley. It was so embarrassing to lose that game at Wrigley Field when we did the White Sox takeover. We got to pay them back. Cody, you can see his pictures. Cody Del Mendo, who's right now in Studio B for CHGO Cubs. His victory tweet is him cheering right in front of my face, happy as hell about the Cubs beating the White Sox. So we got to pay him back. So if you want to join us, pregame, we're going to have some drinks at a local bar around the Wrigleyville area. Then we're going to go into the game. I think the seats are in 425. Go to allchgo.com right now and get your tickets for next, was that Wednesday, Stephen? August 16th, 7:05.
Next Wednesday,
when the White Sox travel to Wrigley Field and face the Cubs. And hopefully they have already won the Tuesday game, so the Wednesday game can be for the BP Cup, which we all care about. But you didn't come for that. You came for the White Sox 9-2 victory over the Yankees. They take 2 out of 3 against the Bronx Bombers and do another thing to a team that is looking to go to the playoffs. They did this to the Cleveland Guardians over the weekend. This week they played spoiler to the New York Yankees. And on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have another chance to spoil the Milwaukee Brewers' chances to advance in the playoffs and stay on top of the AL Central. But, Jarrett, what'd you think of the game? We're not going to talk about this too long, guys, because it doesn't effing matter, Pedro Grifol. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad because in a way it's the kind of win that you feel like you've been looking for from this team. And not just the kind of win, but the kind of series you've been looking for from them for a long time now. You go up against a good team, a playoff team, and the Yankees even this year that's got something to play for, and you still take 2 out of 3. You beat them pretty easily today. Mm-hmm. A pretty solid victory all around. That's, yeah, in a way it's like, yeah, this in isolation it's really nice. Mm-hmm. And on one hand it's a little frustrating because where has this kind of thing been for so long now?
Pedro.
Yeah. And but on the other hand, if you want to project forward and, given, and I know we're going to get into this, but everything that's gone on with this team in just the last few days, really, and you start to think about, okay, what happens next for the White Sox? Well, what you hope for is that they can get the right pieces in place and get things figured out so that what we saw tonight can become more of a regular thing.
And you're a person that's been in that White Sox clubhouse this year and seen what's going on. You're a reporter, so I'm not sure you're looking for vibes or things like that. Was there anything untoward any times that you've been there, or what's the clubhouse like when you've been covering the White Sox for us at CHGO?
I mean, I'll say that I've never been in there and gotten the obvious feeling that something was off. Mm-hmm. And I've been in other teams' clubhouses, and so I have something to compare it to. Mm-hmm. But there was never like a glaringly obvious, like, something is wrong here.
Okay.
I will say this, though. Especially last year, I wondered all season long, how is it that a team that has this much talent just cannot seem to find, a stretch of wins? They can't get above that 500 mark. A division that was like right there laid out for them, they couldn't take it. And so that was one of the first indicators I think that I got that, like, okay, there must be something going on, that a team that's on paper at least that's this good. And yeah, they were dealing with, there's injuries to players and some of those kinds of things that go on, but that was one of the indicators that, like, okay, there's something that's gone wrong here. We talked about it during the game, but I'd had somebody tell me a couple of years ago that there was an issue with some of the younger players not listening to veteran players or not following their lead or following their example. So there were little things along the way like that. But at least like being in that clubhouse, I couldn't say to you, it was really obvious that something was wrong. A lot of stuff that I think now in hindsight, I could probably say, oh yeah, well there was this or there was that. But in the moment, did that stand out to me? A couple of little things maybe, but nothing major.
And Victor Valendume asked about Robert. He hurt his pinky, sprained his pinky on his right hand. Sliding into third base there at the third, fourth inning. He left the game after that. We'll have Vinnie Duber on in about 20 minutes to give us the lowdown on, firstly, the pregame stuff from Pedro Grifol, the title of this very episode. What he said. We'll give you the proper context. You can hear it straight from the mouth of the person that said it, Pedro Grifol. I know there's a big kerfuffle on Twitter about him saying things like him not prioritizing development over major league wins, which in itself sounds ridiculous, but I want to see and hear the exact clip. It's about 4 minutes long, and then we'll get into the actual game with Vinny when he comes on. But right now, I want to know from you guys who are listening and watching, and Jarrett, how do we fix this White Sox team? Because Rick Hahn says in 2024, they're looking to compete again. So usually with a team this bad, you would have a lot of things and a lot of places to go where you got to get this player, and you have a lot of availability to get them. But the White Sox, as Vinny has pointed out many times, they have contracts signed for long-term deals for most of these guys. So let's look at the current White Sox and what they project to do in 2024 for the position players. They don't have a catcher for next year. Corey Lee's still in the minor leagues. You can't go into next year either with Carlos Perez or Sebi Zavala because they can't hit baseballs. That's not good. And Yasmani Grandal is going to be a free agent. Andrew Vaughn's going to most definitely be the first baseman next year if nothing changes on trade-wise. Second base is still open because Elvis Andrus is not going to be here next year, and you question why he's still getting time. We'll have Pedro with the answer later on the show. Yoan Moncada's making $24 million next year. He'll 100% be here. If there's any player on this list you'll know will be here, Yoan Moncada will be a White Sox in 2024. Tim Anderson will return at shortstop. He has a team option. They're going to pick it up. It's $14 million. I think they're going to pick it up. I don't think there's a chance they will not pick it up. Left fielder Andrew Benintendi, and let me say that they'll pick it up 100%. Now I don't know if they might trade him, but that option will be picked up. So I'm just going to put him as the shortstop for next year. Andrew Benintendi in year 2 of his 5-year deal. He'll be in left. Center fielder will be Luis Robert Jr. Right fielder Oscar Colas hit a home run today, and the DH will be Eloy Jimenez. So we got 2 spots for the White Sox to pick up players. Let's start with catcher first. Where are they going to get a major league catcher out of this list? And if you're listening on the podcast tomorrow, thank you very much for listening. Yasmani Grandal is going to be a free agent. He can be picked by the White Sox. Yan Gomes has a option. It's a player option?
Club option.
A club option. So the Cubs have an option to pick him up or not. Gary Sanchez is out in San Diego having a good year. Austin Hedges, more glove than bat. Martin Maldonado, the same thing. Mitch Garver's in Texas. Tucker Barnhart, Victor Carantini, Roberto Perez, and Tom Murphy. Any of those catchers strike your fancy as a person that the White Sox can use as a bridge piece to either Corey Lee or to Edgar Quero, who are Edgar Quero is probably years away, and Corey Lee will probably be here at the end of the year.
Well, I think so. To take this question of, how do you fix what's going on with the White Sox? Because there's 2 different fronts that you have to tackle here. Number one, I think, is you do have to take seriously whether there's clearly something happening in that clubhouse that Keenan Middleton felt like he needed to say something, even though he's not even on the team anymore. And, we talked about it during the game, but as a journeyman player, he has a lot to lose by speaking out about what's going on inside of a locker room. And so for him to say that and then for Lance Lynn to back it up, that tells you that, your first issue is if we've got a clubhouse culture problem, we have to address that. Now, and I know, and I've seen, in some of the comments, like, yes, maybe the best solution is from the top down, but realistically, is that what's going to happen?
Yeah. We're operating with Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams are coming back.
Right.
Trust me, they deserve to be fired last year. They 100% deserve to walk out the door this year, but we know that's not going to happen, so we're going to deal in reality. And I know in the next graphic I put Shohei Ohtani in it. We're going to deal in reality, too. I just put it there because they should go after him.
So, yeah, so working from that assumption, then I think the smart approach is to target players who can help. At least one of the things that they're going to offer is to help you address that clubhouse culture problem. And so I like the idea of, as I look at that list at catcher, just having had the benefit of covering both teams in Chicago, I've seen a lot of Yan Gomes, and I've seen a lot of what Yan Gomes does for a pitching staff, what he is as a veteran player and what he does for a clubhouse. And to be honest, what he's still capable of bringing at the plate. Tucker Barnhart's a great veteran catcher too, and is great for pitching staff, but he just doesn't hit nearly as well. So, and I can see a situation where, given what the Cubs have, they've got Miguel Amaya, who presumably they see as their catcher of the future. Do they exercise the club option on Yan Gomes? Maybe not. So if he becomes available, the first guy on that list that I have that I'm targeting if I'm the White Sox is probably Yan Gomes.
Same thing with me. I would, just for the reasons you said, everybody who's ever met Yan Gomes and players talk about him like he is the guy. And he used to be a guy that hit a bunch of home runs and hit with the bat when he was the Cleveland Indians back in the day. But yeah, he knows the division. He would, I think, help this pitching staff immensely with his veteran know-how. I think he's going to be 36, or he is 36 right now, so a little long in the tooth. But also, that's exactly what you need as a bridge guy to let Corey Lee, if he's going to be the guy who's the backup next year, or let Edgar Caro have a couple years down in the minors without having to rush him up. And you're getting good representative catching behind the plate, not like you're getting from Sebi Zavala, who's the pitchers love him, but he can't hit. He's only versus the Yankees, and he's out this series. So he's missed his chance to get his home runs. And you just brought up the point about Keenan Middleton, and you clipped in the Slack apparently, I didn't see it. I wasn't at the game, but there is a film of, right there, Steven, there's a film of Keenan Middleton pitching. The guy pans down to Keenan Middleton, see him pitching, pans to the center field scoreboard. In the center field scoreboard, you usually have the defensive alignment where the pitcher is supposed to be listed. Keenan Middleton's not listed. And then on the ribbon boards on the side, he's not listed. Petty. If this is true, this is petty by the White Sox, what they did to do that to Keenan Middleton, who, of course, broke bad on the White Sox after he got traded to the Yankees and said the clubhouse culture was bad. And he named, a couple of the people, and didn't name names, but he pretty much said that this clubhouse is bad and people are sleeping. And you saw the White Sox, when they got hits off them, did a little mouthing type of hand gesture towards their own dugout. I thought that was part of, hey, you don't talk about the clubhouse culture, and the White Sox kind of getting back on him. If the White Sox really did that, not putting his name on the ribbon boards and in the center field scoreboard, unprofessional, very unprofessional, petty. But I wouldn't put it past them because that's what they are.
And I think another way of looking at that, because I agree with all of that, is let's pretend in the future that your clubhouse culture does get fixed. Where you have to ask yourself the question: where did your wake-up call come from? Who did it start with? Like it or not, and I understand completely from a player's perspective the notion of, hey, the clubhouse is this, we don't share everything that happens in here because there's going to be, you spend that much time with a group of guys and stuff's going to happen, and not everything needs to be publicly known.
Exactly.
But if there is an issue, then, and you have somebody that calls it out, who has a lot to lose by calling it out, and that is sort of the catalyst for them addressing this issue, there may come a day when you look back and say, hey, this all started with Keenan Middleton saying, speaking up and saying something. So if they truly decided not to if that was a conscious decision not to put his name on the scoreboard, that's ridiculous.
It's low rent.
But B, if that quickly you have the White Sox players, when they get hits off of him doing this, and it's galvanized them to kind of rally around something, maybe that's a positive first step, and that's where it starts from. So, there's a lot potentially going on there, but I say before we villainize Keenan Middleton, just keep in mind the possibility that he has sort of pushed the first domino for what might be something that changes your culture.
I certainly hope so. You have something to say, Steven?
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of like that Keenan Middleton said what he said, because it opens up a door that we never really see. It's inside the White Sox locker room where things are apparently going on that we didn't know about, and things need to be fixed. Making those public, that increases the likelihood of actually seeing some change.
And feeling a little embarrassment. Like, I hope they feel embarrassed by what Keenan Middleton did, because it was national news that the White Sox have a bad clubhouse on top of all the stuff. And as somebody pointed out, they didn't learn from the Baltimore thing where they suspended their announcer, and then all the fans are pretty much behind, everybody nationally is behind the announcer. And then also with Northwestern today, they're wearing shirts after all the stuff that happened with the hazing and the sexual harassment stuff. They're wearing shirts that supports Fitz. Like, you already lost, guys. Stop losing. That's what I'm saying about the White Sox. Like, forget about it. Like, Keenan had something that you disagree with. Smooth. Right. But as Jared says, this is good for the team. And if it galvanizes them against Keenan Middleton specifically and that team, cool. Play like that for the rest of the year. Have that chip on your shoulder in the offseason. And
carry that into next year. It's because it's kind of like the Simpsons joke, dig up, stupid. Like, don't you're going the wrong direction. Like, enough with this, use that as a spark to head you in the right direction.
Exactly. And so let's go to second base, because it's not good either. The White Sox have Zach Remillard and Elvis Andrus. Zach Remillard's a 29-year-old journeyman. He's only played for the White Sox, but he's been in the minor leagues the whole time after he went to college. And Elvis Andrus, who won't be here. So I'm saying that position's open, and I hope they actually go and try to get one of these players, even though these names are not that great. Adam Frazier's the most appealing one to me. He's got 14 home runs out in Baltimore. He's a free agent. We've seen Josh Harrison here. Brad Miller's kind of old. Whit Merrifield's got a mutual option of $18 million with the Toronto Blue Jays. Tony Kemp. Ahmed Rosario is more of a shortstop. Same thing with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Adalberto Mondesi, who's got traded from Kansas City to Boston. Not really that great. Elvis Andrus. And then Kike Hernandez. Out of those people, I would say Adam Frazier or maybe Whit Merrifield would be my people, because I think they're both quality veterans. And speaking for Merrifield, he has experience with Pedro Grifol. We've seen them try to get Salvi Perez. He wants somebody to be a lieutenant for his battle standard, because apparently he doesn't have the respect needed for the players in the White Sox clubhouse for them to listen. And so he needs a Royal, not Andrew Benintendi, another Royal to continue his battle standard and say, hey, Pedro's smart. We won us a World Series back in the Kansas City Royals. I don't think Whit was there then, but he can further what Pedro says, and the players maybe listen to Whit, who has been in the league for a long time, and they respect him as a former Royal that used to beat the White Sox on a daily basis. Any of those names that tickle your fancy?
This is a tough one, because it's not exact. This isn't like a deep field of players here, but I kind of land on the same two guys. You're looking at, it's either Adam Frazier or Whit Merrifield. I got to say, between the two, I think I'd go Frazier, just because I feel like if Pedro Grifol's in a position where he needs to be recruiting former Royals to help him run that clubhouse, that's a problem.
It's already a problem.
That's not what you want. So I think I'd go Frazier in that case, because if that's really the approach that they're going to take, where it's like, we need some players to help us with this in that way, in that they have to be former Royals, I don't love that. Don't love that.
And Adalberto Mondesi fits that too.
Yeah, you've got another former Royal there, but because on one hand, yes, I do think that there is some value to bringing in quality veterans who are good clubhouse guys who are going to help change that culture, but not in the sense that you want to, oh, well, he was somebody who played under Grifol before in Kansas City, and so he's going to kind of help convey the message from Pedro to the rest of the clubhouse. I don't like that. I don't like the message that sends to the rest of the team.
It's kind of like, hey, we got to be the Royals.
Yeah.
And the Royals are the only team below them in the standings in the Central.
Right. So you're aiming the wrong direction at that point. So I think I would put an emphasis on just finding like a quality veteran player who's going to help change your clubhouse, and don't worry about whether or not he's coming to you from Kansas City.
I kind of wonder too. Do you think there's any scenario where Tim Anderson would play second next season?
Not for the White Sox.
Not for the White
No,
Sox?
I
Not for the
can't
White
imagine.
Sox.
We've seen
No.
it a little bit this year. I just was curious.
Not
Yeah.
for the White Sox. I think if he's on the White Sox, he's in shortstop, unless they pick up some ass-kickingly great shortstop where Tim's like, cool, yeah, you're getting me a top-name shortstop, which that was last year where all the shortstops were available, and Dansby Swanson's and the Carlos Correas of the world, but there's none available this year, I don't believe, as I looked at the list, at least none that the White Sox will be in the market for. And those lists were pretty much real. Those lists are complete, but also realistic because the White Sox will not be fishing at the top of the market. We've got to take a break. After this break, we will hear from Pedro Grifol, our own Vinnie Duber, who is at Guaranteed Rate, spoke to Pedro Grifol with the assembled media, and we'll give context to the quotes that you saw on Twitter today, and make sure that you hear exactly what it comes out of his mouth and the time and the tone and tenor that it came out, and we'll have Vinny on to talk about what he saw. But Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. One-stop shop for all your cannabis needs, no matter where you are in your cannabis journey. Easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Great transparent loyalty program, Sunnyside Rewards, and it's Illinois' favorite dispensary from city to suburbs. Wrigleyville to River North, Champaign to South Beloit. Sunnyside's house brands is Mindy's or Good News or Cresco, Florical. They're all good. Good News is my favorite. They have these things called Frye. They're sativa-based, which get you up, get you a nice body high. Go and check them out if you're a fan of those type of products. Through August, which is now, head to sunnyside.shop and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off of your total order, one use per customer. That's not only for new customers. Anyone can use that code. Pick up everything you need and elevate your summer. Must be 21 plus or an Illinois MedCard holder. Now, let's talk about the folks at Lewis University. Students are just like you, full-time jobs, families, full-time sports fandoms. Go back to school and earn your respected degree at Lewis University, 35 miles southwest of Chicago in Romeoville, and it's ranked as U.S. News and World Report's top-tier colleges. Lewis partners with numerous employers for tuition discounts, offers evening, online, blended formats to help you balance work, family, and education. Faculty bring real-world experience, instruction into the classroom, which is immediately relevant to your career. Looking to complete your bachelor's or master's degree, enrolled in a professional certificate program, Lewis has the right program for you. Lewis offers several career-focused programs that will help you set you up for success. We're just going to highlight one here. The Lewis program that we highlight today is the Criminal Justice Public Safety Program. First responders receive 20% off of tuition. 20% off tuition discount, and tuition is deferred for 6 weeks after each class. Discover how a degree from Lewis University can help you build a better world. Learn more at lewisu.edu/you-can-do-this. That is Lewis, LEWISU.edu/you can-do-this. Now, with that said, let's go to the video from Pedro Grifol to give you proper context. This is in the pregame from the White Sox with the assembled media, including our own Vinnie Duber, what he said, and this is about 4 minutes, so you can get exactly what he said about playing veterans over young players, wins over development type of stuff, so you know exactly what he said. Here you go.
Pedro, you've talked about Colas and a lot of the stuff that you've wanted to see from him. Is there
a need or a desire to play him on a daily basis because of all of the stuff that you guys want to see him develop?
Correct. So he hasn't played the last couple of days. His legs were one of his legs was a little sore. He also had a little cut right here on his finger. So I gave him a couple of days just to make sure to be able to do that, what you just talked about. You know, I don't want to take what just could be a couple of days and turn it into, 2 weeks just because I want to play him every day. So you know what, take a couple of days, get completely healthy, and then run him back out there, against whoever.
Is second base a place where you could do that maybe with Elvis versus some of the young guys that you've got in there? You may be looking to see some more youth at that position.
Elvis will play his share. Remillard will play his share. And then we'll see what happens moving forward. But Elvis is playing good baseball right now. Him and Remillard will split some time there. And when Timmy gets a day off, Elvis will go short. Maybe Moncada, when he gets a day, I'll move Remillard over there to third base. But we'll match it up. But yeah, I get your point, and you are correct.
What's your learning process with all these young players you have in the bullpen, and how you mix and match and decide what you're going to do?
I think the most important thing is, and the best thing is that they're here now. Spring training is extremely deceiving. The lineups are deceiving. I've seen a lot of guys make the opening day roster that are down in 15 days, and I've seen guys make the opening day roster that stay there for a long, long time. I've seen guys not make the opening day roster, and 10 days later they're here, and and they didn't have a good spring, and they're here in the good big leaguers. So I think the most important thing is just having these guys right now. For example, last night, Cronin had to go through, 2, 3, 4. That's really important for his development. He looks like he can be a part of this thing moving forward. So we just gotta, you can't just completely disregard the fact that he is a rookie and he just got here and throw him to the wolves. But you got to challenge him at some point, and you got to put him in some stress and clean up this inning and give us a couple innings one day and give us an out or two the next, and that kind of stuff. So there's a development process to all this stuff. But again, I'll repeat this till the season's over. We're never going to compromise a major league win, for development. But I'm glad that they're here getting this type of time under their belt, and just putting some of this experience in their library.
Pedro, I know you're focused on what you have here and winning on a daily basis, but you have a couple guys like Corey Lee, who's working in Charlotte, Lenine Sosa, who puts up great numbers in Charlotte, hasn't transferred here quite yet. Did they come up in conversations over the court, over the last 6 weeks to maybe get a little more extended look at those guys and see what you have moving into 24?
Yeah, they are. They're in conversations, and we all are in conversations. Corey Lee came over to us, and he was on the DL. He hadn't played that much as of a couple of days. A couple of days ago, he only had like 7 at-bats. Got a couple hits last night, which was good to see. In time when he's ready, we'll talk about the possibilities. But until then, I'm focused on these guys here now, and our minor leagues are focused on those guys down there. But yeah, we are in discussions about that. But this, today is not the right time.
That was White Sox manager Pedro Grifol in the pregame, and the person that provided us that video is CHGO's White Sox beat reporter Vinnie Duber, who joins us live from Guaranteed Rate Field. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. Vinnie, a lot of people up in arms with the tweet that you sent out this afternoon. The proper context there was a little bit more helpful, but I think a couple more people are still kind of miffed at his words there, especially about Elvis Andrus.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is everybody's favorite topic, lineup construction and who's playing over who coming into conflict here with what the White Sox kind of overarching plan should be here. There's a lot going on in all of those answers from Pedro. You're getting individual guys being assessed. You're getting, grand statements about what the team is going for over the next couple of months here being mentioned. There's strategy about calling up minor leaguers. Then there's your regular old coach speak about trying to win every single game and playing as hard as you can kind of thing, putting the best team on the field. So listen, there's a lot going on there. I don't know if you want to unravel it entirely, but I think the main takeaway is there's some contradictions in there, certainly. And, if you're going to say, hey, we've got to win every single game, we can't be worried about development right now, while also saying it's important over these next 2 months to get these young guys the time and developed, those are contrasting statements. And, if you have to be able to explain why you're doing one thing and why you're doing another. And maybe, if we sat there with Pedro for, 45 minutes, he would, you know what I mean? And he would go guy by guy and tell you that. But it does seem right now it's very much, case by case. Somebody replied to me on Twitter saying, like, is this a main objective or is it a case by case basis? And I think the way that those questions were answered, you're probably looking at the latter as being more right. I mean, he's talking about Declan Cronin going out there and the opportunity that he's getting and how it's so important for him to get this major league experience here because he could be a part of what they're going to have going into next season. He's talking constantly about Oscar Colas, about what they're doing to teach and develop Oscar Colas here at the big league level and turn him in to the right fielder that he needs to be for this team, because they need him. They were hoping that he could be that guy at the beginning of this season. He very much wasn't. They need him to be that guy by the beginning of next season. So there's a lot of this team's future success riding on the development that can happen at the major league level this year. At the same time, he's basically writing off, at least in the right now, the idea of people coming up from the minor leagues and taking the jobs of the guys who have been playing the entire season. And I get, what the stat line says for some of these guys, Elvis, Yasmani, I understand, and listen, we've talked to her before about how, and Pedro laid it out there, when Corey Lee is, fully back from that injury that he had, maybe he is going to be up here right away, and maybe there would be some roster change to accompany that. But when it comes to Lenyn Sosa, we haven't heard really anything or any speculation that would be Elvis Andrus related. So right now, Elvis is playing. Pedro said he's playing good baseball, and he's gonna keep him in. He wants to keep him in the lineup. And at the same time, you got to remember Elvis is brought in basically because, be it last year and this year, because of what he can provide behind the clubhouse doors also. And so, we've been spending literal hours over the last few days talking about how the White Sox are trying to steer this clubhouse culture going forward. Maybe Elvis is a part of that in a small way, you know what I mean? And you don't just get rid of somebody who has made a positive contribution. That's me speculating a little bit more there in terms of, why he is playing as much as he is. But, at the same time, you heard from Pedro, and there's no doubt that those statements have been contrasting. But you should kind of dive into each of them and see what he's saying about each of those guys, even when the general concepts maybe don't make the most sense.
And I saw today, after Keenan Milton gave up a hit to, I think it was Elvis Andrus, and they scored a run, them doing this like hand motion kind of like talking thing. It was off of Keenan Middleton, and then also there was a video circulating that showed that Keenan Middleton was pitching, and there was no name on the center field scoreboard or the ribbon boards. Was there any talk, or did you catch that yourself, that the White Sox are kind of galvanizing around them, kind of not liking Keenan Middleton because he broke protocol?
I don't know if I'd go that far. The only person who was asked about it post-game, just because probably he was the first one out of the clubhouse, was Mike Clevenger, and he had not seen any of that. He didn't know, any of the stuff that was being talked about like that. And he said they're not worried about it, and that he still, and I believe the word he said was loves. He still loves Keenan Middleton. So there might not be anything to that. I did see what Elvis Andrus did after he got that hit, but they do a lot of stuff directing back at their own dugout, so who knows? And I did notice the absence of Keenan Middleton's name from the scoreboard. It was odd. Nobody else's name was not on the scoreboard tonight, so I remember seeing it and going, "That's weird." But no comment on it from anybody that is employed by the White Sox at the moment.
And also, we saw Luis Robert leave the game early in this one after he stole third base. Any updates to him and what happened and what they have the official report as?
So the official report is that he sprained his pinky finger on his right hand. Luis Robert is no stranger to those kinds of injuries. We saw him suffer one last year, quite notably, on the base paths, that really kind of ruined the remainder of the season for him. And if you'll remember way back, I believe it was his first full season in the minor leagues in the White Sox organization, he injured his thumb sliding into a base, and it really sapped his power for the entirety of that season. The power numbers from that year, everybody was wondering, why isn't this guy who's supposed to hit a lot of home runs hitting any home runs? Well, that was why he injured his thumb. So this is nothing new. But he, if you notice, he wears on his left hand that oven mitt to prevent that kind of thing from happening. He doesn't wear it on his right hand, and that was the hand that he used to slide into third base tonight. He was doing one of those Javi Baez, matrix kind of slides, and it looked really cool, and he was safe. I asked Pedro after the game, did he do what he was supposed to do? Was there something that he did wrong on that play that led to the injury? And he basically said no. His instincts kicked in, and that's what you're supposed to let your body take over to avoid the tag, and that's what he did. It just so happened that he caught his pinky finger there and sprained it. According to Pedro, Luis is expected to be back in the lineup Friday, and if not Friday, it'll be Saturday. So the White Sox aren't talking like it's a big deal. The one thing, though, I brought up the oven mitt, and Pedro said he'll be wearing oven mitts on both hands now. He even said, I think, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but it was along the lines of enough hand injuries or enough injuries sliding when we've got the technology or we have the resources to prevent it. So it seems like the White Sox are sick of that happening too, and they're going to do what they can to make sure it doesn't happen again to Luis.
Are they thinking about maybe not having him slide head first? I know, instincts, and he's been doing that forever, but his hands are, and we saw last year when he got hurt by Jonathan Scope, hands, wrists, fingers, those are the most important things for a Major League Baseball player and can drain and sap your power, as you said they did in minor leagues. Is there any talk about, hey, man, maybe, lay off the head first sliding because it's getting you hurt multiple times in your career?
Well, I think they're going to go to the double oven mitt approach first, and that sounds like something that should be trademarked, the double oven mitt approach. But I think your answer to that question is probably along the lines of one of those where they say, and coaches say this about athletes all the time, you don't want to ever take the aggressiveness out of a player. And I think when you've got a guy who's talking about having a 20, 30 steal season, you want him to be able to keep that tool in the toolbox. You don't want to make it so he can't do that anymore, because it's helping him be successful and in turn helping you win baseball games. So I don't think there would be any talk of that. You remember, over the course of his career, because he's never stopped really doing it, Leori Garcia always used to slide head first into first base. And there was a point where he did that and injured himself, and he was out for a pretty long time. Back then, we had the manager, I believe it was Rick Rennery at the time, saying, don't do that anymore. But that's something that's pretty obvious, right? Don't slide head first into first base. That's a pretty easy rule to lay down. When it comes to Luis Robert elsewhere on the bases, I think they're going to take the approach of, let's see if we can make it safer for him to do that, because he has that skill set and he has the ability to change the game by using it. So I don't see them telling him to stop doing that, because I think that takes away something that makes him such a great player.
Vinny, just to kind of go back a couple of questions, so we know on Monday, after all the Keenan Middleton stuff came out over, late in the weekend, and then, the Rick Hahn spoke and Grandal spoke on Monday. But in the days since then, whether it was yesterday or today, have you guys had a chance to have any conversations with players about, what their attitudes are moving forward from this? Because this is, however they might feel about what Middleton did, it did put them kind of in the spotlight in a negative way about the culture in this clubhouse, whatever it might be like. Have there been conversations the last couple of days about that specifically?
Well, I think what you're hearing when players get asked that, because they have been asked it, if not, drilled down on like it was with Rick Hahn and Pedro Grifol on Monday, it is very much what along the lines of what Rick set up, which was the Keenan Middleton comments didn't really, rip open the curtain and say, look what they're doing right there, because the White Sox knew that things weren't working already. And I think that the work that they were doing started well before that article was published. Rick Hahn brought up that work starting at the trade deadline, that it was a priority for the White Sox at the trade deadline to work on culture building, and that since they had a very productive, according to them, meeting in Cleveland, a team meeting that really kind of set the tone going forward that they want to do on that culture front, as well as what they hope to accomplish the rest of the year. So when you talk to the players about that, or when we have talked to the players about that since, be it a question here or there, it's very much like, well, now we've got it. You know what I mean? Like, the group that we have going forward is the group that we want, and the group that, we're happy to have with us. I think Aaron Bummer said, of the changes that have happened since the trade deadline, it's like, we've got guys in here who are all happy to go out and fight together, kind of thing. So, if there was, not if, we've heard that there was that dysfunction from, earlier in the season, I think that the White Sox started working on that in terms of everything, player movement and conversations and just the group that they want to have here, and the things that they're outlining that they want to accomplish. Again, they're not getting terribly specific about these things, but, they started that work before this came out. This just cranked up the glare from that spotlight, right? And I think that now everybody has heard, because so many people have kind of frustrated fans or whoever tuned out Rick Hahn and what he's been saying, because they know where this team is and they know where it sits in the standings. And so some of the finer points that he's made over the last few weeks or months, they've been like, enough of this kind of thing. Now Middleton says what he says, they hear it from a different source, and it's like all of a sudden, oh man, look at this, look at how terrible everything's going. It was going that way before. It was going that way this whole time, and the White Sox, according to the team brass, have been doing work to try and turn things in a different direction on that front. That work continues, and I think you're hearing from the players that that's what they're working on moving forward, and have been working on since, again, even before any of this Middleton stuff came out.
In our last segment, we're going to talk about today's victory and what Mike Clevenger and Pedro Grifol had to say after the game. But Shady Rays take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered from warm weather ahead, premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair that we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program of all of eyewear. Every pair of Shady Rays is backed by the lost and broken replacement. I guess it doesn't say anything else. It just says lost and broken replacement policy, I guess, so I put behind there. If you lose or break your pair, even day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence, because they have your back long after your purchase. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange them for a new pair or return them free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving you their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And if you see our set right here, the one to the left is Tim Anderson, and the one right in front of that is our guy southpaw, Vinny, or Sean likes to call it, that's Vinny. But those were dedicated and given to us by the friends at FOCO. So get fitted in the gear and the best gear around. Hoodies, sports shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. It's baseball season. There's aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags, everything you need for a game. And like I said, the set decorations have been donated for a few awesome pieces like those two for our friends at FOCO. So go show them some love there. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. And our friends at Pins and Aces are sponsoring our golf outing, our Chicago Kickoff golf outing that's happening on August 25th, Friday, August 25th at Cog Hill. So if you want to join us at CHGO and play some great golf at a great course, go to allchgo.com right now. Get your tickets, get your foursome tickets, and come join us play. You get the polo, you get an awesome towel from Pins and Aces, and get to kick it with us. I think lunch is provided, right, Steven? Steven's going to be
lunch is
there.
provided.
He's going to be there with his Pins and Aces shot tee.
I'll be winning the thing too.
Steven thinks he's going to win. So if you want to, squash Steven, who's not really that good of a golfer.
I'm not. I didn't say I was winning it for my team. I said my team was winning.
Oh, you going to bring some ringers in, Steven?
Oh, they're already in.
Oh, goodness gracious. So if you got a team that can win, and there's going to be prizes available to people who win the shotgun start that we're going to be having in our – I'm not going to be winning because I can't play golf. I know Vinny can't play golf well, right? Jared, can you play golf well?
I am a lousy golfer.
Yeah, so you have a chance to win some prizes and get to kick it with us at a historic and great course at Cog Hill number 2. So Pins and Aces, the official golf apparel partner of ALLCITY and CHGO. We love our Pins and Aces gear. Get tons of compliments on and off the course. As I said, Steven loves Pins and Aces. He tried their shot tee down there in Arizona when he went down to Scottsdale, had a whole golfing trip. That's how tells you that this man is dedicated to the game, even though he's not good at it. They're a family-owned golf and apparel business. Sorry, I'm just
really
killing
coming
Sean.
after me there.
I'm just killing Steven in this read. I'm sorry, Steven. They make amazing because you can't see them. So, the faceless, nameless person of Steven, I'm going to give shots to. I can't give these guys shots. They're my guys, and they're on TV. Sorry, Steven. Get on this side. I won't talk about you. They make amazing polos, hats, golf bags, even for our favorite beer sleeve. An innovative product that allows you to store 7 beers right inside your golf bag and keep drinks cold the entire round. Check out Pins and Ace. Look how beautiful that guy is. Check out Pins. Look at it.
What a switch.
He looks like QB1, Saracen. Definitely. When he goes on, Saracen said he looks just like him. Check out pinsandaces.com and use code CHGO to receive 15% off your first order and get free shipping. That's pinsandaces.com. Now to today's game. I mean, in the grand scheme, they mean nothing. But Mike Clevenger with another good outing today for the White Sox, and with a team that only has guaranteed 2 guys coming back from the starting rotation for next year. Can Mike Clevenger, with these impressive performances, be one of the starting rotation pitchers next year? And what did he have to say after the game? What was working for him versus the Yankees?
Well, he just feels back. You know what I mean? He was out for so long with that injury, and I think now after getting a few starts under his belt, he feels like he's back to kind of being normal. I wouldn't have – tonight he was very impressive. I wouldn't say that his whole season has been overly impressive, especially every time out. But he has been pretty consistent. He's been consistently okay, I guess you would say, right? And so, you can talk about next year and look ahead, and that's a good question. There's a mutual option on that contract, so I guess it's possible, right? But we'll see. They have such a need there that I don't think you can rule it out. And he was really good tonight, and there have been nights where he's been really good. And if they can find that, especially over the next 6 weeks of the season here, 6-7 weeks that we got left, if he can do that several more times, that becomes a lot more intriguing, that idea.
I found it interesting, too, in the 8th inning, brought in Groot Santos, and I was like, who's going to pitch the 9th? It was Groot Santos again who got the save, 6-out save. Pedro go into why he felt that Groot Santos can get the job done, which he did and handily did it.
Yeah, he was just really kind of happy about how he looked out there. Obviously, Santos was on the bereavement list for a while, and Pedro was worried that he was going to maybe be rusty, but he went out there tonight and looked really good. I believe you saw an example of Pedro, that plan that Pedro laid out since spring training, where he was going to throw his best guy at the biggest part of the lineup, and that was the middle of the Yankee lineup there in that 8th inning. That he brought in Santos to face, and then he just kind of kept him in because he thought he looked really good. So, it was only about, I think Pedro said it was 31 pitches for Santos tonight, so not a crazy amount of pitches. Probably not going to be, if they were to play tomorrow, he wouldn't have pitched tomorrow, but they got the off day, so that's all right. Listen, he's their closer right now, and with Liam Hendricks on the shelf, for the rest of the season, obviously, but even if he's under contract still next year, if he, probably going to miss the whole season, if not all of it, or if not, almost all of it, Santos could be the closer of this team on opening day. It's very possible if he continues the impressive season that he has had all the way. That ERA is well under 3. He's been really, really good all year. Aaron Bummer says he throws like nobody else can throw. You know what I mean? Just from the way that he pitches is very unique from the other pitchers' viewpoint. So he's something that's gone really, really right for the White Sox this year. And you could be looking at the guy who's the closer for 2024.
Unless you got something else, Jared. Jared doesn't have anything else. I don't have anything
Thanks,
else. Vinny, it's been awesome to have you on. It's been awesome having Jared Willison in for the great Sean Anderson. I hope he's enjoying the boss still. He's singing "Glory Days" or one of the songs that he sings. I'm not a big fan.
That's one of them.
One of those songs.
Born in the USA, "Glory Days," and I'm pretty much done. Dancing
Born
in
to
the
Run.
streets.
You never heard of Born to Run?
Born to Run.
Born to Run. Yeah, that one too.
And you're
the
trying
Courtney
to
Cox
reference
one, right?
Dancing in the Dark.
That one. What did I say?
You said Dancing in the Streets. That's Martha Reeves and the Vandellas.
Was it Man on Fire?
Oh,
I'm on fire.
I'm on fire. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Guys,
one. Yeah.
this is an embarrassing showing from the Bulldogs.
It is. We should probably shut it down.
I'm
before
sorry.
this
I'm
gets
sorry. I don't
worse.
know Bruce Springsteen too much. I should have been.
We did much better with Yacht Rock yesterday.
Oh
need to
man,
listen
that's
to
good
some
music.
Bruce
That's
on the way
why.
home.
That's why, Steven. That Yacht Rock is good music. That Bruce Springsteen's a little tough. I'm kidding. I knew I'd get Vinny and Sean when he's looking at it. He's like, "What the hell, Herb?"
Herb had to save that line for when I'm at the ballpark, because if he'd said it while I was sitting next to him, I probably would have tackled him.
And tomorrow you could see me get attacked by Vinny, maybe if I say the same thing, and Chris Pennant, who's from our CHGO Sky Show. It's going to be at 11:30. We're going to have a great time discussing the White Sox on their off day. We thank Stephen Nicholas for
12:30,
his...
I think, Herb.
Huh?
12:30, I believe.
Oh, is it 12:30? Did we get past? Oh, yeah, we got pushed back because of the meeting. So join us at some time tomorrow, 12:30, 11:30, whatever time. But we'll send out tweets and such. Stephen Nicholas, thank you for your production. Thank you for Jared Willis, who are hooking it up today for Sean's absence. My name is Herb Lawrence. You can follow me on Twitter, Ecknerwall23, Jared Willis, J. Willis, Y's instead of I's, and Vinnie Duber, Vinnie Duber on the Twitter machine. And the show you can follow at CHGO_White Sox. And if you want to follow Sean and see what all his pictures from the great Bruce Springsteen concert at Wrigley, Sean_W_Anderson, because he's on fire. See, I did it right.
There we go.
So thank you for joining us. Hopefully the White Sox take this momentum and take it into next year, because these games don't count. It doesn't matter. It's so terrible to watch them win and come together as a team too late, but maybe they can carry this on to next year, and 2024 can be a year the White Sox compete, because I need it. We all need it, folks. Covering this badass team is making me go crazy. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Shea Fidel. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Matthew, Fred, all you. Good night.